Hey guys, Tyler with Meeple Mountain here, bringing you another board game preview and review, this time from our friends and Nashville natives, Ivy Studios, who've given us a copy of Mythic Mischief Volume 2, an entirely standalone expansion to the already incredible Mythic Mischief world and universe. Now this is going to add 4 new factions, a really new skin and theme for the board, the hedges, and a new tomes keeper, a groundskeeper, but the game itself remains the same, the incredible kind of asymmetric strategy game that you've maybe come to know and love, but it adds new factions and some new aesthetics, a new place that you can fight in the garden between the hedges here. And so all of this looks incredible, but there is a lot of fun and a lot of new asymmetry to discover in the factions that are packed into this box. So if you are unfamiliar with this title, I would encourage you to check out our Mythic Mischief video. We already have a video that teaches you how to play and everything you need to know to jump in and really enjoy this title. Today, we're just going to focus mainly on the new factions, what they bring to the table, and talk about the game as a whole. So we're not going to do a full teach today. Check out that other video if you're curious about that. But with that said, let's get to the table and check out everything that's new in Mythic Mischief Volume 2. Welcome to the world of Mythic Mischief Volume 2. Mythic Mischief Volume 2 is an entirely standalone addition to the Mythic Mischief world. You don't need to have any of the current, existing Volume 1 content to be able to enjoy this title if you were to pick it up. It's an entirely standalone game, just like the first is, where you can play as 1v1 or in teams, and it has 4 entirely new factions that have asymmetric abilities and will, of course, continue to add to the fun and replayability that you know and love about Mythic Mischief. Now, this title does, of course, plug into the main Mythic Mischief world and can be played interchangeably. You could play any of these factions against any of the existing Volume 1 or Kickstarter factions and have an entirely fair and balanced set. This title also includes new After Dark, Before Dark, and solo mode cards, so you can have those for replayability. Of course, this adds additional setup components, additional movement rules for the groundskeeper, all of which will continue to add some fun and additional replayability to a title you already know and love. Now, you'll notice here we have a new board and a new tome keeper called the groundskeeper here, but really for all intents and purposes, this is just a reskin of the existing core game. While we're here in the garden in this setting, we're outside. It's the exact same as being in the library. You'll notice that things reference hedges. These are going to be your bookshelves. Those terms are interchangeable, and anything that references a tome keeper, of course, references the groundskeeper. So while they are reskinned, they do function and act exactly the same. The core maneuver of the game is the exact same deal. The groundskeeper is going to be moving towards his 3 points for the Before Dark time. Then we'll move into After Dark and play through those, and whoever has the most mischief points at the end of the After Dark phase will be victorious. So everything is exactly the same as you know and love it from Volume 1, but you could play this entirely on its own if this was the only piece of the Mythic Mischief universe that you owned, or you could add this to your collection to have a new map, a new skin, as well as, of course, new factions that are going to be super, super awesome and add new abilities and even more asymmetry to your games and just having those fun interactions. So what I want to focus on in this video, of course, is pointing out the incredibly nice production quality that we already come to expect from Ivy Studios. They've held up their end of the deal very well there. This game looks beautiful. But I want to focus on, of course, on I think what we're most interested in learning about, which is the new factions. Because if you know Mythic Mischief, you already know it's a quality game. It has some great strategy, amazing replayability. But let's talk about these factions, what they do, and their unique abilities and After Dark specials so that you kind of know what you're getting when you jump into this box of Volume 2. And after that, of course, I'll offer my thoughts on the overall title. All right. Here we have the 4 new factions that you're going to find within Mythic Mischief Volume 2. We have the gnomes, the fairies, the gargoyles, and the werewolves. Again, all kind of these fun, high fantasy vibes that feel very much in touch with what you would expect from this particular mythical entity. Now, something I love that Ivy Studios has done is they've always done a good job making these characters, these factions, we'll call them, feel very much in touch with what you would expect something like that to do. So the fairies, for example, are very mischievous. The gargoyles are very heavy and sturdy, resilient, tanky, hard to move around. The werewolves are very destructive. The gnomes do gnome things. They do illusions and trickery, and I love these guys. These guys are super, super cool, but they all are fun. So let's talk about each of them in order, starting with my favorite, the gnomes, and then we'll go across here, and that way you guys kind of have a feel for what they all do. So the gnomes do some really cool stuff. The most interesting thing to me on the gnomes. They have some cool abilities in general, but is their movement ability. They have a move die set here, and you'll notice they have a secondary move set called Burrow. They actually can spend both of these to burrow under things, and they can ignore spaces of terrain and pop up elsewhere on the map. So they can burrow under hedges or bookshelves. They can burrow under the Tome Keeper to jump out behind him. There's a lot of cool repositioning stuff they can do here. You do have 2 dice pools to manage, but their abilities are really cool. They have some basic maneuver, kind of move things around allies and enemies, basic stuff that you've come to know about the game. Then they also have a really incredible legendary potion ability. It's one of my favorite things. They are able to reset one of their action die. So you can spend your tome to actually reset one of the die here to what is printed on the top above it. So you can actually burn through a die, reset it, and still have more actions. And so this can make for some awesome kind of quick turns, which is great. Their After Dark special as well is very fun. You can move the destination token up to 1 space. So you can actually start shifting destination tokens around to move the groundskeeper. So of course he prioritizes his movement different and get people captured. These guys are really fun. They're a little tricky, and I really enjoy the tricks that they can come up with. Next we have the fairies. The fairies of course love mischief, and they feel very mischievous in how they play. They have a lot of abilities that let them move enemies, allies, and even the Tome Keeper around the board, which of course are all very, very fun. They can actually switch places with the Tome Keeper themselves, a groundskeeper, which is a really fun as their legendary ability. So I actually really enjoy that one as well. And then finally, their After Dark special is super fun. They can put this kind of, we'll call it an enchantment ring, onto a player. This can go onto an adjacent enemy, and then you can move that enemy orthogonally 1 space every turn, which is incredible. So you have if you're playing against the fairies, you may have a poor person that has this ring on them, and every turn you're getting kicked, some very, very unhelpful direction orthogonally or diagonally every turn on their turn. And so they're very fun. They're fun to mess with opponents. You kind of mess up their best laid plans. And so we'll call them a mean faction, but they're quite fun to play. Next we have the gargoyles. As I mentioned, the gargoyles are very sturdy and resilient. A lot of their abilities, you'll notice, kind of focus on them moving with something. They kind of lock into a bookshelf or a hedge or another player, and then they can shift everything with them. So they have some cool repositioning abilities as well. But I love their ability here, their stone ability. They'll drop this token down onto one of their characters and make him stone, and that'll go onto a gargoyle, and then nothing can move into that space, even the tome or groundskeeper, for that round. And so they can just literally make an impenetrable wall to protect themselves from getting captured or to stop people from moving and reposition. So they have some really fun stuff that they can go on there. Their After Dark special is just a great passive buff for them, which is that it takes an additional point of movement to move into their space. So they just are harder to move around and reposition. So again, just really powerful movement debuffs and some movement buffs for them. They're really fun as well. Next we have the werewolves, who I think are probably my second favorite to play. These guys have some great movement abilities, repositioning abilities, and destruction abilities. So their ability Fling lets you just chuck a dude 2 spaces left or right from wherever your werewolf is, which is great. They can also do something similar with the bookshelves or the hedges. They can reposition those as well. And then they have some really fun legendary and After Dark abilities. So they have their werewolf ability, Full Moon. They'll put this onto one of their werewolves. That this ring will stay until they get captured. And that actually lets you fling over hedges as well. So you can actually just start chucking stuff into corners, around hedges, and it really messes up what your opponents are trying to do. So there's a lot of fun that they can have just repositioning. And their After Dark special is that once per turn, you can remove an adjacent hedge or clutter from your werewolf. It's called Shredder, and it's very fun. They're able to actually destroy the terrain to their advantage. So if you are kind of by a hedge and you want to just get through that hedge, that's great. I'm just going to shred the hedge and then I can walk right through it. Say a nasty little gnome may have done his illusion ability and moved a hedge or a bookshelf in front of you. Who cares? Shred it and then walk right through. After Dark, the werewolves become super powerful and are able to basically overcome one of the biggest challenges of the game, which is, of course, managing the terrain. And so these guys have a kind of explosive second half of the game potential, in my opinion. So a lot of fun. As you can see, these are all very unique, very different from abilities that you know and maybe love in the original Mythic, and there's a lot of cool stuff to discover here. And that is everything that you need to know to jump in and make an educated purchase decision and get excited about Mythic Mischief Volume 2. Now again, this wasn't a full teach, but I hope it was informative for you guys to kind of know what the new factions do and what you can expect within the box of Mythic Mischief. Now, the things I loved about this title is, of course, it's more asymmetry, more replayability, all the things I love. The new factions are incredible. The game itself is really, candidly, the same thing. It's reskinned, but it's really the same thing. The hedges are bookshelves. The groundskeeper is a tomeskeeper. Everything is interchangeable and the same. So much so that they use the term hedges on the back of the box in Volume 2. Or bookshelves instead of hedges on the back of the box. So there's fun little things like that. It was a fun little kind of change typo that we found there. But really the game itself is entirely standalone, but it's the same game as Mythic Mischief. The solo mode is the same, the gameplay, the rules, everything is exactly the same. And it's all explained very well, and of course a very nice detailed large-scale rule book here that's going to walk you through every aspect of the game that you need. So you could own just this and have a fully contained Mythic Mischief experience. But for the collectors, like myself in this hobby, you're going to want to have it all, right? You're going to want to build it all, bring it all together, and have a nice time with mixing and matching and pairing those factions and just seeing how all of those things interplay, which is the shining value of this title. So if you like Mythic Mischief, you're going to love Volume 2. It's more of the same great, awesome stuff. Same production value, same depth, same creative asymmetry and strategy that's built into each of the factions. You're going to have a good time. So I don't have really anything else that needs to be said on that front. It is all there. It's a self-contained beauty, and it adds a lot of fun to the Mythic Mischief universe. The other thing I did want to touch on, though, is actually Ivy Studios is doing something else right now with this, which is really cool, which is they're piloting an app that's going to be the Mythic Mischief app that you can play a local game on your phone, or you can actually play online against other people with turn timers and everything else that you've got, kind of built into that app. So all of the factions are there, so you just choose whoever you want to play. The board will auto-populate for you on your phone, and you'll take your turns moving your dice and your pips around and everything. Now, it is in beta still, so I haven't seen the fully kind of polished product, but I will say this app is really good. It looks cute, it's fun, it's easy to know what you're doing, and if you're familiar with the game, you'll be able to navigate it very quickly and clean. The interface is super nice, easy to navigate and manage. The only thing that I'll say is that there's not a lot of an explanation or breakdown on your abilities within the app. So I was playing as the ghost, for instance, in a game, and it just says Haunt, and it tells me my pips and my uses on everything, but it doesn't break down for me, what does Haunt do, like you do on your player board where you have this kind of imagery cheat sheet. So you really need to know your factions well before you jump into the app, because if not, you're going to be confused. So you may have to get the rule book out while you're on your app and be like, what does Fling do again? Okay, I do that. Okay, so there's some cross-referencing there you need to do. But if you know your faction well, you're familiar with how they work, which most of us would be when you jump into the app, you'll be able to jump in and have a really good time playing online against strangers, playing with your friends locally. It's a really cool app. So I'm excited to see how exactly they launch and manage that within the Mythic Mischief Volume 2 launch, if they're going to be kind of in tandem or separate. But that's something else you can get super excited about, is that there is going to be an app where, just like Root and all the other incredible online game adaptations that we've seen, this app is standalone just for Mythic Mischief, and it's really well done because, again, Ivy Studios is good at what they do. You're going to have a good time with it. So if you're wanting for a new method, a new mode to play this game more frequently, kind of polish up your strategies, this is a great way to do it. So super excited about that. So keep your eyes peeled for that app as well coming out. But I've rambled enough. I hope that you liked this video. If you enjoy this content, please like and subscribe and hit the bell. That's how we keep the lights on. So if you're enjoying that, we hope that you'll do that as well. But I want to thank you for coming to Meeple Mountain to check out this video. I hope that you'll continue to come to us for all of your board game related content and needs. And as always, happy gaming. Thanks for checking out this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Check out these links to find some other games you might want to bring to the table. This is Tyler Williams, signing off.